Hello everyone, my name's Iola, or Yola if you're Welsh, and I'm trying to produce a supportive video for people who have the mental health difficulties that are known as personality disorders, personality difficulties or complex trauma. So first of all, an introduction. Just to say a little bit about myself first before I start. I come from a mixture of roles. I come from a professional role. I work across the country and a lot in the southwest of England in the field of personality disorders, personality difficulties, complex trauma. I train, I write a lot of training for different mental health trusts, different people. I manage the national COugh training in the southwest. I have about 30 trainers that I coordinate and organise the training and deliver a lot of training myself. I also have a company called Emerging Health Community Interest Company, and I write training there and do a variety of work associated with this field. I have an MSc in personality disorders that I received last year. I also have lived experience of personality disorders, that I've lived with the difficulties for decades, and so have learned a lot from myself, but also from meeting with lots of people who have the difficulties themselves. What I'm trying to do in this information is to try and share specifically things to do with personality disorders that might be of help. I'm sure there's lots of general advice out there and general information, and there'll be lots in the videos from mine that will also be helpful for you. But I want to look particularly at these difficulties and some of the issues that may arise for you. In doing this video, I don't want to be patronizing in any way to you. I'm sure you've learned lots of your own coping mechanisms and that you will have a great deal of resilience yourself, and that you may well have survived some really difficult things in your life. I'm going to try and if I can just provide things that may be of help, but I'm sure you've got lots of your own things as well. I'm going to do that by looking at core difficulties. There are 10 types of personality disorders that are in the mental health classification system. It is a definite mental health difficulty. Some people doubt that, but there's lots of research and evidence that points to what the difficulties are, the impact they have on people and other people around them, and they are real difficulties within the mental health classification system. With the personality disorders, there are specifics for each one, but it's also been found that there are core difficulties that go across most of the personality disorders. And it's these core difficulties that I'm going to look at today with you to explain a bit more about the core difficulties, but also to see if there's anything within them that could be shared to help you during this time of lockdown and these times of great change. These core difficulties are usually associated with difficulties with thoughts, feelings, behaviour. Not all of somebody's thoughts, feelings, and behaviour. People will have many positive things and strengths about them, but they're often the result of trauma and things that happen during childhood for a person. They may be things that children may have learned or not learned that are not helping them. Nobody's born with a personality disorder. All the evidence points to them developing in childhood and then coming out in adulthood. A lot of the difficulties I'm going to share, everybody might have these to some extent, but the thing with personality disorders that leads to people needing support and then being very distressing is that these difficulties will probably be very extreme and long lasting as well, and will have a big impact on your life. So here we go into the core difficulties that go across most personality disorders. The first difficulty is to do with feeling and expressing feeling. Often due to developmental issues, emotions and feeling can be a real area that could cause distress and problems in somebody's life. Sometimes you might have feelings that go very much inwards and deep. Sometimes you might have feelings that are very strong and come outwards. Whichever way your feelings manifest, we're going to talk to see, what might help in a constructive way during this time of COVID to help you to let your feelings out and express them in a way that might be more helpful for you. The first thing to talk about is what helps you to touch your feelings, to reach deep down and to really feel your feelings. There was a famous advert about a certain beer that helps you to touch those parts of yourself that other things can't reach. I'm not saying you go out and have that beer, but what is it in you that helps you to reach your feelings? I know for me that art has been a great help, especially if being able to splosh paint all over the place. And also for me, music. I play the trombone and I sing and play the piano. That for me can really touch my feelings deep down. That might not be the case for you. It might be music, it might be art, it might be other things. It might be spiritual things that help you to connect with your feelings. It might be writing poetry, whatever. The important thing is to find out and know what it is that helps you to connect to your feelings, what works for you. When you're using something to help you connect to your feelings, it really doesn't matter what it's like. When I play my trombone, it might be loud, it might be out of tune sometimes, but it might really help me to connect to my feelings. I'm not sure my neighbours necessarily appreciate it, but sometimes it's not producing the perfect, it's allowing me to really reach my feelings. So it's what allows you to reach your feelings in whatever way you can. When you've reached your feelings, how can you then express them? So this is the second thing. The first thing is about how you reach your deep down feelings. The second thing is how you might express them. And also in this time, what is possible during lockdown? Can you use those ways you reached your feelings to also express them? Can you be able to give out your feelings through art, through music, through walking in your exercise time? Could it be that you find it helpful to reach out and talk about your feelings? It may not be someone face to face now, we know. It could be someone that you trust, that you maybe live with. It could be someone that you can contact by video message. It could be that helps you to go to someone you don't know by things like Mindline, Samaritans. Those are still there for you to vocalize your feelings to a person. It's also important that you reach out in a way that helps you. I know for me, if I communicate with somebody and reach out, it really helps me to be able to see them. I can't necessarily know that somebody's real if I just hear them. That's just me. But what is it for you? Is it better for you to video call people? Is it better for you to use the computer, the phone? Whatever it is that really works for you, you have a right to, once you've learned what works for you, to be able to then do it and not feel awkward saying to people, look, can we video call? I find that more comfortable. Whatever it is that works for you. So that's the second thing, to be able to express your feelings. The third thing is about what are your feelings? In this area, in personality disorders, complex trauma, it can sometimes be hard to know what your feelings are. I know for me at first, I could only say that a feeling was good or bad. I didn't know what different feelings were. I've now learned more so to know what fear feels like, what anger feels like, what anxiety feels like. So it could be about understanding your feelings at first. There are things that can help, like Samaritans in their website have a feelings card that can help you to sort of maybe name some feelings. I know for me, I write a diary at the end of every day. I write down, right, Yola, what have you felt today? And it's still very broad. I'm not good at identifying little feelings, but it's helping me. It's helping me to think, I think felt a bit frustrated today because I can't do this or that. Or I felt pleased because I've learnt a new skill today. So I found that really helpful to start to identify some feelings. What works for you? The fourth thing in this area is about if it does go pear-shaped, if you act out your feelings, you can't express them in a constructive way anymore. It could be that you self-harm, you break an object, something like that. Perhaps later have a think, what was the feeling I was feeling? Could I have expressed it in a different way? Don't beat yourself up. But it's always, sometimes by looking back, we can have a think that, was there another way of doing it? So with the core difficulty of feeling and expressing feelings, it's about, first of all, how do you reach your feelings? Second of all, how do you express your feelings? What works for you? Third of all, what are your feelings? And then last of all, if it does go pear-shaped, what can you learn from that? Or if there is another time. The next area is impulsivity. And impulsivity could be said to be where you go straight from strong feelings to action, and your thoughts got lost, mainly because your feelings are overwhelming, and to get rid of them, people act out. They don't necessarily think about it. And this can be, really, really difficult. So some possible tips to try and help us with not being impulsive or trying to cope with it if we are. The first tip, try and release your feelings as you go along. And like we've said in the last area, there are lots of ways you might be able to release your feelings. And if their strength gets reduced, like through mindfulness or whatever, that can stop them from building up. The second area is, as we said, try and talk with someone about how you feel. When you do talk about how you feel, it's about you being heard in a way that's genuine, that the person really understands what you're getting across to them. And like we said, that could become Samaritans, Mindline, lots of different ways. Hopefully, if you can talk about them, they might become less strong. Third one, try to think through, why am I feeling like this? It could be a feeling that everyone else is feeling at the moment. It could be that you're really fed up of, being in your home all the time. It could be you're really fed up of not having comfort from somebody. It could be a whole load of things, and it could well be that other people are sharing those feelings. It could be that it's triggering feelings from your past that are making it even worse for you. So, really try, if you're able to rationalize where those feelings might come from. Then it might help you when you're working with your feelings and not beating yourself up all the time. A fourth thing could be to discuss with someone your feelings. Certainly when people do MBT, mentalization, as individuals, we all see situations differently. It's not about being right or wrong, it's just about seeing them differently. So perhaps with talking with someone about seeing how a situation is, you can both share how you see it, and that it might be different. You have different feelings about it because of that. But it's not about right or wrong, it's just about seeing things differently. The fifth one, I think, is about, again, if you have acted impulsively, afterwards have a think why. It could be that you've had a trigger triggered. All of us, especially people with personality disorders, have triggers, things that are particularly difficult from them, things that you might have avoided or worked with in the past. And lockdown might have made those those triggers really difficult for you. So you're trying to deal with the situation and you're trying to deal with the triggers from the past, maybe. So again, it's trying to look at what might have been triggered. If you've done DBT, chain analysis can help for this, and mentalizing skills as well. It's with personality disorders, it can be really hard to think and feel at the same time. So the more that you can try and do both is really important. So with impulsivity, so what we're saying is trying to release feelings as you go along, number one. Number two, maybe do that by talking about your feelings. Number three, think through, why am I feeling like this? It could be everyone else feels like this. It could be about that things are being triggered from the past, so it's especially difficult for you. Also, talk with somebody about situations, that we all see situations differently. It's not right or wrong. And then try and keep your thinking going if you're able to. Impulsivity will happen, but the more that we can work with it and try and release our feelings, the more it can help us. Right, the next area is unstable moods. It could be that your moods change very rapidly. One moment you're quite calm, then you might become very angry and upset. Just going to talk about some tips that may help with this. And some of these come from DBT if you've done DBT. The first one is try and keep physically well with healthy eating, sleep, exercise, avoiding mood altering substances. The more healthy you are physically, the more robust you'll be when trying to manage your mood. So those physical things are really important. Number two, be aware and learn about your emotions, as we've been saying. Number three, notice triggers. Number four, be with your emotions. If they're too difficult or too severe, maybe you can't be, it's too much. But if they're not too severe, just perhaps being with them if they're mild can help them to lessen their impact on you. Number five, self-soothe. When things are really difficult, maybe put on a piece of music you like. Maybe be gentle with yourself when things are really difficult. And number six is really important for this time of COVID. Increase your positive emotions. What do you like doing that is positive? Do it. Give yourself permission to do it. And then maybe write down somewhere what you've really enjoyed doing. I know we may not always remember what we enjoy doing. This is a time where you can have permission to do what you enjoy doing, as long as it's within the lockdown boundaries. So in stable moods, keep yourself physically well, be aware of your emotions, be with them if they're not too strong, self-soothe, and maybe most importantly, do what you like to do, as long as it's within the boundaries and can be really helpful to you. The next area, identity. Who am I? Who are you? People with these difficulties can find that really hard. Never learned who you are. It could be that you feel you're rapidly changing because of your unstable moods. I know for me, every time I go into a room, I feel like I'm a different person. But how would you know who you are if during childhood you may not have been shown who you are? There may not have been consistency. There may not have been security. The pandemic might not be the time to looking intensely at yourself and your self-analysis. But what I would encourage you to do, really notice your strengths. During this time of lockdown, I'm sure you will have loads of strengths to help yourself and to also help other people. And perhaps, write those down. Write what you've noticed about yourself that is really positive. The next area is to do with thinking. Rigid thinking, black and white thinking, all or nothing thinking. Often in personality disorder field and personality difficulties, complex trauma, people focus on feelings and behaviors, but all the research shows that there's a wide range of difficulties that are affected, that your thinking as well can be affected because of research into neural pathways. Neuropsychology has very much shown the wide range in which yourself as a person can be impacted by trauma, attachment, and things like that. But as you know, it's really important to know it's not all of you. You will have some really healthy parts of you and some really strong and positive parts of you that can be really help you too. Right, with our ways of thinking, to survive childhood, we've often developed survival strategies, some of which will be in our unconscious. Some of these survival strategies when we go into adulthood can be really helpful, but some can get in the way. And these survival strategies can become quite rigid. That, you know, these are the ways I learned to survive as a child, this is how I am now. And some of those survival strategies might be helpful, some of them might be getting in the way. So like we said in the other slides, it's about sometimes trying to open up, if we can, to what is helpful about our thinking, what might get in the way, and also maybe learn from other people. One of the ways to move forward with our thinking is to look at other people who are modeling other ways of thinking. We need to be sure that's healthy, but also that they are modeling other ways of thinking. Another difficulty in this area could be what's called black and white thinking, all or nothing thinking, where we're at extremes. It's hard to think in the grey, we think one extreme or the other. So an example could be that we might see one person as being all good, one person as being all bad. And that could be to do with the way that our thinking has developed. And it's not about beating ourselves up like that. But someone else might model another way of thinking where it's more grey, that a person might be good with some difficult parts of them, or someone might be difficult with some positive parts of them. And this is when in the black and white thinking, all or nothing way of thinking in loads of ways, it's trying to learn the middle ground gradually. The important thing to say with these ways of thinking is you may well have had a lifetime of thinking in these ways. And this isn't your fault, it's not because of you. It just takes time to relearn if there are other ways of thinking. So do be gentle with yourselves, especially now. So with the black and white thinking, all or nothing, rigid thinking, it's understanding that these have often been ways of surviving, that they may lead to rigid thinking now, black and white thinking, that these ways of thinking can be changed by modeling, by watching other people, learning from other people who are learning the more grey areas, but also recognizing what is positive in what we think and what we might need to learn to do in different ways. But this takes a long time. Like, you know, I've lived with a personality disorder for 3-4 decades now, and there's still loads that I'm learning. It's about trying to be patient with myself and gradually learn things and to be gentle, especially at these times when we're in lockdown. The next area is relationship difficulties. And these are the area that are quite often highlighted in personality disorders and can bring quite a lot of the other core difficulties to do together. But, you know, again, thinking about what may have happened to some of us, how would you know how to cope with relationships now? If you've or if you've experienced relationships that maybe weren't safe and people didn't show trust, you couldn't trust people, you didn't learn basic skills, why would you know how to do them now? Again, it's things that people can learn. It's really important to say at this point, it was said at one time you could never move forward from a personality disorder, personality difficulty, complex trauma. You can. There's loads of research that shows that you can. A lot of it is about learning different coping strategies to work with the difficulties you have to come alongside your trauma. But don't ever believe someone when they say that you can't move forward from these difficulties. You absolutely can. It's a lot of hard work and time, but you can. With relationship difficulties, what might be difficult at this time? Just to say, it always takes two to tango. It may be difficulties for you, but it may also be difficulties the other person has. So don't always beat yourself up with things. Things that can happen, boundaries. It can be really important to be clear what you need to keep safe and to share this with people close to you. Sometimes what people do that I know, somebody I know, she has a wristband, and the colour of that wristband says different things for the people she lives with if she's not able to say them. One colour might mean, I'm great at the moment, that's fine, I can relate with you. Another one might mean I'm feeling a bit dodgy, I'm feeling a bit fragile. Another colour might mean I really just want to be left alone at the moment so that I can have some time and space to myself. So that people might know it's not to do with how, the interaction's just about how that person is at the moment. Some people do something similar with the colours red, amber, green. It's about working out what's best for you, what you need, and how you're going to relay that to people maybe that you live with or people that you are close to. It's also important routines. And I know for me, what's worked for me during this lockdown is about building boundaries based around routines. That I do certain things between so and so time, then I change to do something else. And also that the weekends are different for me than the week, so that there's a time of rest and difference there. But that routine for me has really given me boundaries. It's helped me feel safer. It's also helped me to say to people, I don't really want you to contact me during those times. This is where my times of feeling safe. It's also important that you communicate with people in the way that's best for you. If people are outside your home, what's best for you? Is it best phone? Is it best to write a video call, computer, email, text? What's best for you? I know for me, I prefer video calls because if I can't see a person, I don't know that they're real. So I've said to people where it's possible, can we have a video call? And that's been fine. It's important to say, work out what's best for you, communication, and then to say to other people. And it's also, hearing other people when they say their boundaries and what's best for them as well. It is, as I've said, you can move forward from personality disorders, but it is all about, they are real mental health difficulties. They've been in the classification systems for decades. They are really important to live with, but they're not impossible. For people to work with, but also to work together. It's about working together with others to help you, but also to help them. So with the relationship difficulties, it's about understanding why things might be tricky. It's about working out boundaries that are safe for you and routines and sharing them with others. Working out what's best for you communication-wise, hearing other people. And it's understanding, these are really difficult difficulties. It's about doing what's best, the best thing you can to help yourself. Next one is crisis, non-crisis. Personality disorders, these difficulties, they are continuous. They're not in episodes, but I'm sure you will all know there are times when things are particularly difficult, crisis spells, when your feelings, thoughts, behaviors might become overwhelming for you. Things like, for me, my mind dissociates. Other people might become intensely angry and act on that. So it's knowing that these times might be, even more intense. So the first thing is, what is a crisis for you? It may not be you're a bit off that day, but what is it when you really gone into crisis? Is that written down? Do people know what it's like for you when you're in crisis? Maybe write it down when you're not. Second thing, please get help when you're in crisis. You are important. You won't always be in the crisis. There are times when it won't be like that. And the third thing else, the help is still there. The GP is still there, the crisis teams, A&E, the police, 999, whatever it is that you need at those times. It's really important when you get your help when you're in crisis, you're really ill. Important to remember that services are still there during lockdown. So really to encourage you that we know crisis times might be more intense. What is your crisis? And then to encourage you that services are still there. The next one, second to last, change. At the time I'm doing this video, we are still in lockdown, but it looks like things might be gradually changing. Change can be really difficult with these difficulties as boundaries shift, new stresses come in, relationships might change. So first encouragement, take your time when the lockdown changes. Be clear of any new boundaries outside your home, but also in it. And talk with people you trust about practicalities of the changes and how you feel about them. They will cause new feelings. It's really important to talk about them. And last of all, bring in new boundaries that help you to feel comfortable and safe. So as change happens, still, show what you need, talk about the changes, how they are affecting you, and put in boundaries for yourself and take time to do that. Right, my last slide is hopefully encouraging. You can do this. You've probably got lots of positive coping strategies already. It's likely you've been through difficult times to have these difficulties and you'll already be very resilient. This could also be a time of learning for you. There are going to be new stresses because of COVID, but some of the usual stresses might have gone at the moment. This could be, a start of a new phase of your life, what you learn about yourself, the strengths and positives you see. It's not discounting your difficulties. It is really difficult living with personality disorder difficulties, complex trauma. Take your time. And my message to you and from Bristol Mind is lots of good wishes and keep going. Goodbye.